Hello, I'm going to be talking about Seismic 4D inversion for quantitative use and automated history matching. So my name is Milana Ayzenberg. I'm a senior researcher in Reservoir geophysics at Statoil. I work in research, and we are quite a multidisciplinary group working on the different aspects of integration of seismic data, in particular 4D data, into a model update. So our group contains post-geophysicists, reservoir engineers, and geologists. So the outline of my talk will be as follows. I will tell you about seismic conditioning of the model. I will go a little bit into the detail of the different aspects of the workflow, the different components of it, give a little bit of a status. Then I will go to the Gimle field example, and I will show you how we do sensitivity studies prior to starting the history matching itself. Then I will show you some examples of history matching of dynamic data, and I will conclude. As you see here, you can use seismic data for the different parts of the modeling workflow, starting from the definition of the seismic attributes that are useful for building the model, as you see to your left. Then you can go all the way through depth conversion, defining structure model, defining properties. Then you can go to the geomodel in the middle. And then if you apply Petro-elastic modeling, you can go to the modeling of the seismic attributes that will be later on used for history matching of the observed seismic attributes. So now what concludes this workflow is actually the assisted history matching framework, which allows us to incorporate seismic data on equal footing together with production and pressure data for updating our models. In this presentation, I will be mostly concentrating on updating the dynamic properties, as you see here, shown by those three arrows. So you see that I will be talking about extracting of the seismic attributes that help us during the conditioning. I will go through the forward modeling loop, and then closing the loop will be the assisted history matching. So now if we turn the workflow a little bit around, we can see that to your left in blue you see the full modeling workflow, and this is sort of a cartoon example. So you see that we go all the way from the structural model to the geological model to the reservoir model, where we can do simulations, and then we go through Petro-elastic modeling to the seismic attributes or even seismic data. On your right-hand side, in red, you see the different steps in seismic inversion. So we can use either seismic amplitudes, which are the result of basically migration. That's the top level. So then we can proceed further using elastic inversion. We can do conditioning on the different seismic attributes such as velocities, densities, acoustic impedance, time shifts. We can go even further in this workflow, and we can try to estimate pressures and saturations. So now we know that estimating pressures and saturations is the most difficult part of the seismic inversion, and that's the most uncertain one. So now closing the loop is the assisted history matching algorithm, which helps us to give input from seismic to the modeling workflow at the different levels which we define ourselves. And this workflow is supposed to incorporate uncertainties, for example. So it's very important that we understand and quantify the uncertainties at every step of this workflow through the model building and in the seismic inversion. So now question is, which level is the best one? And there is a lot of discussion on that point. So obviously, as we go further in the forward modeling loop, the uncertainties increase on your left-hand side. And if you go in the opposite direction in the seismic inversion on your right-hand side, then the uncertainties increase as well. So we've tried updating the model at the different levels, and the most traditional one is the one in the middle, the green arrow. And I will show you some examples later at the lowest level, so estimated pressures and saturations, how they contribute to our history matching. So now, as you see, this workflow essentially contains three main components: the blue one, which is the forward modeling, the red one, which is inversion, and the green one, which is assisted history matching, closing the loop. So the way we do history matching is we work within ensemble methods, meaning that we generate multiple model realizations based on the understanding of the uncertain parameters in our geo or reservoir model. So typically we would generate 100 model realizations, and that also means that we history match all of them using production pressure and seismic data. So the output of the history matching would be the same amount of realizations of the reservoir model, and they will be history match, and hopefully the uncertainty will be reduced. So now what you see in the middle, in the magenta rectangular area, is that we use as input, we use both seismic data and we use production data, we use pressure data for doing the history match. So now on the forward modeling, in blue to your left, what you see is that we have a generic setup for estimating elastic parameters from reservoir parameters. So on the top, you see a typical output of the eclipse simulation model, that is porosity, net to gross, pressure saturations, dynamic parameters. So we put those through a set of equations to obtain the elastic parameters, typically PS, velocity, density, and two-way travel time or time shifts. And of course, this is very generic, so the Petro-elastic model has to be updated for the particular field, has to be adjusted. So now, if you go even further in the forward modeling, we have a software which helps us to run seismic modeling based on the output of the Petro-elastic modeling. So basically, we take as input velocities and densities on the reservoir grid, and then we put them through the software to obtain elastic, the seismic response. So what you see in the bottom right, that's the comparison that we typically get. So to the left on that picture is the seismic synthetic data. To the right is the observed seismic data. And one more component in the in closing the loop, that is seismic inversion in red. And for this we are using a Bayesian approach, which uses three essential inputs on the top. First of all, we use data and estimated uncertainty. Here it is important that we are using the 4D data, and we are actually inverting the difference data, monitor minus base, meaning that we will not obtain absolute 3D values of the elastic parameters, but we will obtain relative changes from base to monitor. On the top two in the middle, you see that we need a forward modeling operator G and some estimate of the noise. So as input to that one, we need typically wavelets, we need some understanding of the background model like VP-VS ratio. And to the right, we see some estimates of the prior model and uncertainty. So for the prior model, we typically say that because we are running for the inversion, that we can say that the prior model is actually zero, meaning that we have no change from base to monitor. While for estimating the possible corridors of change in the elastic parameters, those we usually get from, for example, a simulation model by delineating the areas of observable for the change, and then we can give some estimates of how much we expect the elastic parameters to change between the base and monitor survey. So now when we have all the inputs ready, we put them through the 4D Bayesian inversion. You see the two formulas in the middle. So the top one gives us an estimate of the change in elastic parameters from base to monitor, and the bottom formula gives us a posterior uncertainty, which is connected to the prior uncertainty, the modeling operator G, and the data uncertainty. And the output in the bottom, that is going to be, as I mentioned before, the changes in elastic parameters from base to monitor, so the ratios, and some estimate of posterior uncertainties. So now the posterior uncertainties are going to be used during history matching for weighting seismic data compared to the production and pressure data. So if you want to go from the elastic inversion to Petro-elastic inversion, we have developed a technique which is based on a neural network approach. So what you see to the left is output of the reservoir simulation model, which contains pressure, saturations, porosity, V-shale, and this kind of parameters. So now if you put this through a Petro-elastic model, we will get some estimates of the elastic parameters, like velocities, densities, acoustic impedance, possibly time shifts. So what we would like to do is to train the network to understand the Petro-elastic model to the -1 or the inverse Petro-elastic model. So as soon as we feel that the network properly understands how it gets from the elastic parameters to the reservoir parameters, we can put our estimated elastic parameters from a seismic inversion to this one, and we hope to get estimated pressures and saturations. Now we know that estimating pressure is a tricky part, and in the examples that I will show you a little bit later, we have not succeeded to estimate pressures reliably. However, saturations, I will show you some examples on the use of saturations. So now that we have all the bits and pieces together, I will go to the field case, and that is the work that we did on the Gimle field, located offshore Norway, so northwest of Bergen. So the field is located between two major fields, Gullfaks and Visund, as you see on the map. So Gullfaks is on the structural high, Visund is a bit to the north or east-north. Gimle is a relatively small field of Jurassic age. It's a sandstone reservoir, oil reservoir, quite heavily faulted, especially to the east, where it goes from in-situ deposits towards degradational complex. So it's a small but relatively complex field geologically. However, it has good reservoir properties, quite good porosity, good permeability. There are only 3 wells at the field, 1 water injector and 2 oil producers. The field is covered by seismic data recorded by the Gullfaks unit and recorded by the Visund. So Gullfaks data covers Gimle only partly, so we were not able to use it for history matching. However, Visund data covers Gimle field enough so that we could use this data. Again, top view of the field. So on bottom left you see the Gullfaks field, then you see Gimle, and then in red you see the Visund field. So we started this project off with existing geomodel and reservoir model as delineated by the gray rectangle. So you see that the model covers not only Gimle itself, it covers also the southern part of the Visund field. And that is because we have evidence of communication between Gimle, some of the prospects to the east, and to the Visund south. So the reservoir model contains 7 zones, slightly above 40 faults, 4 phases in the geomodel, and above 200,000 cells. So it takes about 1.5 hours to run history for this field. Now for the seismic, the Visund seismic, as I said, that covers the whole of Gimle and all the Visund. The Gullfaks seismic, that is covering Gullfaks and only the Gimle, does not cover the Visund south. We have well data information, we have sonic logs, we have pressure estimates, we have production rates for these wells. So we have a Petro-elastic model, which is based mostly on the spinner well, which is just east of Gimle. Not exactly the same geology because the Brent reservoir is thinning towards east. But that's the vertical well that we could use, and as well as some of the vertical wells on the Visund So about the challenges on Gimle. There are quite a few parameters that we tried to update as the result of this study. First of all, it was uncertainty on the structure, especially top reservoir, which is very difficult to interpret from the seismic data. We were looking into regional communication towards the east, the prospects in the east, and towards the Vision South in the north. We were looking into fault transmissibility, the full porosity permeability fields. We were looking into skin factors, aquifer size, and some more. So now question is, what seismic attributes are relevant for updating our model? And first of all, we have to decide at which level we are going to do the update. Is it the top one, looking into amplitudes? Is it the middle one, looking at seismic attributes? Is it the bottom one, looking at estimated pressures and saturations? And we've tried all three of them, and I will show you some examples of the bottom one. So the next important question to answer is the forward modeling. So we have to make sure that we properly model the seismic attributes that we choose for conditioning, and that we do proper calibration. Because as you may know, seismic data contains a lot more information that is possible to include in a history matching algorithm. So in fact, we have to do some preliminary processing of the seismic data before we're actually able to input it in the history matching. And the main conversion. We realized that conversion from time to depth for the seismic data is a very important step, and it has to be done properly to make sure that if you update the model on a cell-by-cell basis, the seismic properties have to be properly positioned in space. Another point is that we have to look into information content in the seismic attributes. So of course, seismic data is a large amount of data. So we have to do some preliminary principal component analysis to reduce the amount of information and to get rid of unnecessary noise. We have to do a proper uncertainty assessment for the seismic data to be able to weight the seismic data against production and pressure data. And then it's the proper choice of assisted history matching algorithm, which is capable of digesting the amount of seismic data coming in. Now to the sensitivity study, we'll show you one example when things do not work as expected. So what you see to your left is the estimated time shift between 2004 and 2010, basically a very long period of production. So you see the blue blob to the left, and that is a local pressure buildup around the water injector. And then you see the two producing wells a bit down on that picture. So what you see in the middle are the model time shifts from the simulation model. So what you see in bright yellow and orange, this is the waterfront movement. So obviously our simulation model is showing something different as compared to the observed time shifts. We do not see the local pressure effects in the injector, but we see the waterfront movement, which we do not observe in the time shifts. So now what you see to the right in red, that is the uncertainties that we obtained from the 100 realizations of the time shift. And we see that, of course, the uncertainties are the highest in the area of injection and production. However, the uncertainty does not explain why we observe different effects on the time shifts as compared to the simulated time shifts. So in fact, in this study, we were not able to use the time shifts for history matching. And these are the areas I was talking about. So now we decided to go for the amplitude information, and we did elastic inversion. As you see to the left, that is the inverted change in P-wave velocity. According to the color bar, the velocity is changing between plus minus 5% approximately. So in the southern part of the simulation model, that's the waterfront movement from the injector to the left towards the two producers to the right. And in the northern part of the model, we see some blue negative change in the P-wave velocity, and that is gas coming out of solution in Vision South. So if you look at the simulation model to the right, we see that actually we are modeling the same effects as we observe in the seismic inversion. They match quite well qualitatively as well as quite okay quantitatively. Of course, we see much more noise in the estimated ratio of the p-wave velocity. However, we are actually able to use that for history matching. But today I would like to show you the results of history matching on estimated water saturation data that you see to the left. So again, the green one, that is the waterfront movement, and you see gas out of solution in the middle of the model. So quite a bit of noise in the estimated water saturation, which is going to be eliminated during history matching because we only history match in the areas where we observe significant 4D changes, and that is the waterfront movement and the gas out of solution. So in the middle, you will see the simulated change in water saturation. The same effects qualitatively. Seems that we have a little bit too much gas out of solution in the model, and that we are going to look into during the history matching. So to the right, we see the uncertainty from the 100 realizations of the model. So you see that the uncertainty is quite high in the production area and as well in the gas out of solution area. So now we are going to do history matching on only those two areas, and we are going to disregard other areas in the model. So that is the prior model in the middle and the prior uncertainty to the right. So now after the history matching, it looks like this. Seems that we do not have extremely much change in the model. We get a little bit less gas after history matching, but what is really important is the uncertainty to the right. The uncertainty reduces quite significantly when we go from the prior model to the posterior model, and that gives us a very important input from seismic to the model in the interval space. I will show you one example when we try to update the permeability multiplier. So what you see to the left is the prior distribution of the multiplier. We said that we didn't have any idea about the multiplier, so we basically took a uniform distribution between 0 and 10. So if you sum sort of the values of the counts, you will get 100 in total. So now in the middle, you see that we updated the multiplier using production data and pressure data only. So the distribution somehow gets more defined, but it's still difficult to say what number would be a good estimate of the permeability multiplier. So what you see to the right is update of the permeability multiplier using production data, pressure data, and 4D water saturation. So now you see that the distribution becomes almost Gaussian, and we have a good guess for the multiplier. Let's say it's about 5. Some production profiles. To the left, that is the water cut in one of the two producers. To the right is the oil production rate in the same producer. So what you see in blue, those are the 100 realizations, prior realizations. What you see in red are those conditioned only on production and pressure data. And in black, you see the historical data. So you see that obviously history matching on production data gives us a better estimate of the model, and we managed to decrease the uncertainty in the model realizations. However, if you include 4D water saturation together with the production and pressure data, we managed to decrease the span of possible model realizations quite a bit. So if I flip back and forth, that is what you're going to see. So it seems the span is getting better. You may observe that the seismic data sort of drags the realizations towards a bit too high water cut as compared to the historical data, and probably towards a bit lower oil production as compared to the historical data. And that is something that we have to look into. Okay, to conclude, our ultimate goal is to be able to integrate seismic data on equal footing together with pressure and production data in the assisted history matching to be able to update our models. So the workflow contains essentially three components. That's the forward modeling, seismic inversion, and assisted history matching. And all those three have to be in place to make sure that we are able to close the loop. We pay attention to uncertainties, and that is a very important point, is that we are able to quantify the uncertainties in the forward modeling and in the seismic inversion. And we are able to weight seismic and production data against each other in the history matching. And for that reason, we are actually looking at multiple realizations of the model as well as seismic data to be able to get a good quantity for the uncertainty. And we believe that multidisciplinarity is the key to success. So it is really important that our team is as it is. So we have geophysicists, reservoir engineers, and geologists working together to achieve the goal. Some funny picture. So I would like to acknowledge the Gimle partners, Statoil, Petro, ConocoPhillips, and Total, for permission to show the data, and my colleagues for their contribution to this work. Thank you.